Every time I die, I have to spin the wheel of punishment and lose the ability it lands on. If I lose every ability on one hero, we have to spin again and move on to the hero it selects for us. Can I make it all the way to Grandmaster, or will I run out of heroes first? To kick off the video, I touched the wheel inappropriately, and it gave me a little 360 to show off those curves. And it landed on my alias, Mr. Fantastic. I remembered there was like a little combo you can do to stay in his tank mode pretty much permanently. So I watched a quick tutorial on it and jumped right into the game. And from the moment my team stormed out the gates, there was no stopping us, with the enemy playing like they queued up to lose, blazing through their defenses with overwhelming power and momentum, winning teamfights back to back, and I pulled off the permanent tank combo flawlessly throughout the match. And pretty much without any resistance, we hit the first checkpoint. Starting our way through the second checkpoint, things showed no signs of slowing down. We were still on our flawless record of 0 death and kept the pressure straight coming. But this challenge is ruthless, and one death is all it can take for things to spiral into madness. Especially on a character like Mr. Fantastic, who relies on his kit in its entirety to enable his combo. But somehow, fortune smiled on me. The first ability I lost was the team up. To be honest, I couldn't have picked a better one to toss away anyway. So this small setback later, we were back on the advance, ready to turn up the heat once more. We were the better team without question. I took out a healer, ulted, and took out another. You know, casual. However, Moon Knight's ult, whether he knew it or not, cut me off from my team, effectively isolating me from any type of heal. And after some time of me clinging on to dear life, I had earned my second death and would lose another ability. My ult was now disabled. But his ult's weak anyways, so we're still chilling, at least ability wise, cause now the enemy had control over the convoy. I got the feeling that my teammates really couldn't keep up, with our healers permanently running into danger head on, and our other DPS lagging far behind. The next death hit me before I could even see it coming, and slowly but surely I was running out of abilities. With my body shield gone, I could still pull off the tank combo, but my survivability was fading, which left me more and more vulnerable to follow-up deaths. And with Moon Knight's ult delivering me another KO, things were looking grim. Somehow our blazing start had snowballed into tragedy within a matter of minutes, and I was down to my last ability, which would soon be stripped from me too. At that point, the match wasn't just lost, it was a full-blown execution. But maybe the Wheel of Fate was looking out for me, and would give me a banger hero next. Wolverine. One of my favorite heroes to play, that's what I like to see. Good wheel. Now in Wolverine we had found a hero whose survivability is pretty much unmatched in the game. He doesn't have a ton of abilities, but he doesn't need them. Not when you've got instincts like mine. As long as I played selfish, I'd be just fine, which, let's be honest, comes pretty naturally to me. But early into the match, reality hit. It had been a while since I played him seriously. I was rusty, plain and simple, and struggling to get a hold of the slippery-ass Captain America, who, since he was their only tank, was my prime target, but with his high mobility, just kept slipping right out of my lethal reach. After a little back and forth, we had managed to establish our dominance on the battlefield, capturing the point and forcing the enemy to retreat. I hadn't died yet, and I wasn't planning on either. With every drop of blood they spilled, I only got thirstier and started shedding off the rust. And yeah, I wasn't exactly lighting up the kill feed, but that's never been Wolverine's job. My job was to shut down their Captain America, keep him out of our backline, and keep him on the run. Wolverine doesn't win through volume, he wins through impact. His kills have weight. Now, second by second, our capture progress ticked upwards, until it hit 100. First set secured, and I hadn't died at all, exactly how it should be. All we had to do now was repeat that, and the win would be ours. Just seconds into the round, and I had already spotted my nemesis. Ready to tear him apart, I leaped, and he barely dodged it. But from that moment, the fight was on. We tore into each other, putting mean intentions behind every attack. But even if he killed me, my passive allowed me to come back to full HP instantly. But in a smart move, he chose to disengage, and I wasn't stupid enough to chase him down to the enemy lines at low HP. So I retreated back to my team as well. Unfortunately, my team hadn't done anything useful in the meantime. When I rejoined them, they were still fumbling for control of the point. The enemy popped 2 ults and forced us to scatter. And when the dust settled, our tank was standing just outside the point, poking and waiting for things to happen. So I took his place, dashed in and carved a path for our team to follow and get back into the advance. But just as we were establishing ourselves on the point once again, both supports popped their ult at once, forcing us to retreat again and wait out their duration. So I relocated, hunting for new angles to engage. But Moon Knight's ult taking out our tank didn't help our mission either. If not for my passive, I'd have joined him in the Shadow Realm. But instead I sent Captain America there in my place. Soon after, our team tried to mount another push, but my lead missed horribly, only hitting a Loki clone and leaving me stranded deep in enemy territory. Without any chance of escape, I was taken out and my first ability lost. Wolverine's ult isn't flashy, but it's a cornerstone of his kit. I still had the leap and the dash though, which was Wolverine's bread and butter. So as long as I could keep my deaths under control, I could call it a warning shot, not a failure. But the reality of things were that so far, we had struggled to stand our ground in this round. Things were going way less smooth in this set compared to the first one. And at this rate, it was looking like we would lose the second set point, putting us into the position of having to win the tiebreaker match. But just as we hit overtime, Captain America made the mistake of going toe-to-toe with me once more. And this time I'd make sure he wouldn't get away the way he did before. And it seemed like this time, while I was busy shredding Cap, my team had managed to make progress on their front as well. So I was pleasantly surprised that when I killed Cap, I regrouped with a team that was now in control over the point. And for once in the match, things were looking up. But a single well-placed Moon Knight ult was all it took for the momentum to shift. I tried taking him out, but I was forced to prioritize survival over getting petty revenge. And so the point fell into their control once again. So the decision over who won and who lost would be up to the tiebreak match to decide. And going into it, I knew I'd have to turn up the risk. So far, I'd only lost one ability, but I hadn't really been racking up kills either. So I'd have to step it up, way up. And above all else, I'd have to turn up the heat on Captain America, hunt him down and make sure the remainder of the match would be a living nightmare for him. Somehow, I would have to find the sweet spot between being a relentless killer and an unkillable bullet sponge at the same time. Early on, we had established dominance and were fighting tooth and nail to keep it up. But once again, with them popping multiple ults and me having lost mine, we couldn't retaliate and were forced to retreat. But we held. We survived the pressure and we came back swinging. I ambushed Captain America, taking him out with a feral leap once more. So far, my game plan was playing out the way I wanted it to. However, their Moon Knight had ult ready, and so far his ult had always been the biggest turning points in the matches prior. So it was crucial for me to make sure he couldn't get it off. And I showed up and delivered. I didn't kill him, but stopped him from ulting and set up our Psylocke, killing him shortly after. All that separated us from the win now was 20% capture progress. And with most of the enemy team still at their spawn, it was unsure if they'd even have enough time to re-engage one last time before we could take this set point to ourselves. And then, Moon Knight's ult came through just a second too late to have any effect anymore. With that, we take the match for us. And so, going into the next match, I was packing confidence. I mean, a single death in the last match? That wasn't just good. That was a damn near perfect performance for this challenge. Things weren't looking bad for us either. In fact, we were off to a solid start, especially with a Groot on the enemy team. Low mobility, massive hitbox, he was basically a wooden billboard, begging for me to carve my signature into him with my titanium claws. Naturally, without risking a scratch on my pretty face, I kept cleaving through them, poking, ambushing, hitting from angles they didn't even know existed. I wanted them to fear me, even behind the safety of their screen. But then, I got cocky. Leapt in, tried to kidnap Cloak and Dagger straight into their backline while my passive was on cooldown. Yeah, not my brightest moment. That misplay cost me my dash, one of Wolverine's most crucial abilities. And when you lose mobility in a game this fast, you're not just slower, you're practically begging to be put down. Still, my feral leap was up, so the claws weren't dull just yet. I re-engaged, confident, hungry, and missed my leap. Now both dashes were gone, and my only mobility was sitting on a 12-second cooldown. But hey, I wasn't gonna let that stop me. I was still craving that sweet tree bark. Unfortunately, I underestimated the Rocket plus Bucky team-up synergy and caught a bullet in the face before I could even blink. Where I had capped deaths to a minimum in the last match, here I was, 2 minutes in, already with 2 deaths and nothing to show for it except for the stench of regret. My leap was gone, my dash stripped, my kit was looking dire. Not even a third of the way into the match that would have at least 2 rounds, and things were already going sideways. If I wanted any shot at flipping the script, I needed to stop handing out free kills like I was trying to feed their highlight reel. But then, at the gate to the first checkpoint, we made our stand. Something clicked. We dug in and stopped their little parade of dominance cold. At least for a while. Until a storm ulted right on top of me. She blew half of it just to chase me down like I owed her money and finished the job just inches away from me getting a health pack. But hey, there was silver linings, right? I'd already lost my 2 best abilities, so statistically the next one had to be worse, right? Nope. There went my ult, my final real offensive tool, gone. Now I was left with nothing but Wolverine's basic attack, bare fangs and rage. I was officially downgraded to a handsome version of a tutorial enemy. Still, there was one possible way to use my leap again. Via team up. All I needed was my teammate to time it right, and maybe we could salvage something. Okay, that backfired hard. From that point on, the spiral just kept spinning. Losing my key abilities that early didn't just hurt my damage, it chained every mistake afterward. Had I kept my mobility, I could have escaped half those fights. Instead, I took the hit straight to the chin. Now all that stood between me and losing everything, my last sliver of attack, was one more death. But if there was one tiny, stubborn glimmer of hope left in this disaster, it was that the clock was working for us, not against us. 1 minute left. If we held them off just a little longer, we'd pull off a miracle stop before they reached the second checkpoint. We had just wiped their whole team. Time was ticking, momentum was shifting, and you could feel it. That minute became 30 seconds. They still weren't pushing. We had a shot. Then, Storm. Again. She dropped another ult right on top of the payload, desperate to flip the fight. 3 seconds from victory. I dove into the chaos. One last stand. One last attempt to hold the line with nothing but an iron will and my titanium claws. It didn't matter. Overtime triggered and the payload was pushed. And just like that, we lost Wolverine. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned if you'd like to see if I can make it all the way to Grandmaster without losing all my heroes first.